Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. You're with REISA.
Yeah.
And we're with Camp Lift.
Camp Lift, yay!
And we're also here with Kayla from REISA, the youth coordinator.
Yes, I've met you before at the youth forum and we work together. So it's nice to meet you again for the second time.
Nice to be here. Well, it's nice for you to be here because you're in our new office space.
Beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we like to make it feel cozy, welcoming, and there's a lot of youth that come in our office space now. So we actually run our urban camp here, and it's important that you can feel the vibes, you can feel the energy where it's comfy. You want to just relax and enjoy different activities, and so yeah, we're really happy with the space. So welcome.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about Camp Lift. What is the mission? Who's the target?
You know what the mission is.
We're the partners.
I know. Well, our actual mission, and it's good to repeat it because people forget about it a lot, because a lot of our work happens in the realm of addiction prevention, mostly around drug use and stuff like that. But our actual mission is to contribute to the academic perseverance of youth in high school youth. So it's teenagers, right? 12 to 17. Through the education of healthy lifestyle habits. And so healthy lifestyle habits is overall health and a strong link to mental health, obviously, right?
And when you say healthy lifestyle habits, what exactly does this mean?
Yeah, so we purposely did choose healthy lifestyle habits. It's actually a term that you'll see in les plans d'action du ministère de l'Éducation or ministère santé services sociaux. So the different ministries, when they have specific actions towards youth, you'll see healthy lifestyle habits a little bit everywhere, especially when it comes to health promotion and prevention, because we're really working on protective factors, let's just healthy lifestyle habits the way Camp Lift sees it and how it's seen in many different lenses is physical health, mental health, and social health. And so biopsychosocial health, right? So it's all meshed together. We want to make sure that our approach is very broad, holistic, versatile, individualized, adaptable, flexible, agile, because we're working with youth and we have to meet them where they're at. We can't come with a structured game plan and think that it's a one-size-fits-all type thing.
And you adjust every action plan according to their lifestyle, because every youth is coming from a different background, different socioeconomic background, culturally, and their interests, which is super important as well. What are they interested in? How could you adjust the programming to what they like?
Yeah.
What they look forward to, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the first most important part of working with youth is you have to create that connection. Creating an alliance, a collaboration with youth, you have to start from them, not from us, right? So as you said, they're coming from different areas, different social economical backgrounds, different life experiences, and so it's important to really meet them where they're at and start from there. Yeah.
For sure. And I know some people may be listening to the episode right now thinking, cool, I could contact Camp Lift, but how does it work?
To answer that question, I need to rewind to how Camp Lift began. We started as a grassroots organization. We started in the field working directly with youth, and every year there was optimizations done for rendering better services, better quality services, and reaching obviously more and more youth to build more capacity to answer those calls, right? Camp Lift services exclusively English-speaking youth that are going to high school in the English Montreal School Board network.
Right.
We did that because we were already there working, and then it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. And very rapidly, we noticed that there was other community stakeholders working in other school boards, and some services were already being delivered, services that were similar but different because we all have our own flavor. And so we didn't want to expand more than just the natural, organic way we were. And so going on year 10 now, we're pretty much at a plateau in terms of the scope of our operations and how many youth we service. I mean, we're at 5,000 to 7,000 youth annually that directly get services through Camp Lift. Do we really need to get to 15,000, 20,000, 35,000? We don't. Exactly, right? So that's our concern always, is to make sure it's quality over quantity. And at this level now, we're looking at other parts of what we do to expand, which is not the scope of our activities. We have enough youth. We just want to get better at what we do, which we do already very well. And we want to work with the families, the parents, the school professionals, which we already do in some ways, but we want to build stronger parts around that. Yeah, so if you reach out for Camp Lift services and your youth is going to a high school in the English Montreal School Board Network, knock at our door. If your youth is not going in the English Montreal School Board, you knock at our door, we will refer you to our partners that do similar work also. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all interconnected within a network, and you're not here to shut the door on someone.
Yeah, exactly, and that's REISA's angle, right? Your network partners, and so that's where we would revert back to, okay, well, who's doing what and where? Here's the need, and then we would pair that together.
Well, precisely, and especially with Kayla, who's the youth network coordinator, actually. She manages the youth network. And can you talk a little bit about how REISA has worked with Camp Lift in the last year?
Like when Sabrina actually told me that we were going to be doing an episode with Camp Lift, I immediately remembered from the Youth Network Forum, because when you were giving your speech about Camp Lift and what it offers to these different youth, and I really liked your perspective, and I will get back to your question in a second, but I just wanted to mention this. When you were talking previously about the fact that you need to target each and every youth originally, you know, like you can't take the scope of how you're going to work with one specific person and reuse it for the second. And you had mentioned that during the Youth Network Forum. And I thought that was so amazing, because you don't hear that often, that like the quality over quantity, and the fact that you really do want to give the best possible service to the needs that the youth show that they need help with. You're not copy pasting it per youth with all your organization, but however, you're kind of taking one individual and you're assessing them to see what they actually need and what you can actually give to them independently and individually, so that you can better serve them compared to just serving a group as a whole. I've never heard someone talk so passionately about the way that they work with youth. And personally, I have not worked with Camp Lift in the last 4 years. I know that I've most likely within the network sent through emails and forums and any kind of information that I receive from other partners. But yeah, so I know Pam had worked with you in the past. I assume that she had on multiple occasions, because she had left me like a little document saying who our closest partners were and who I could get in contact with during the summer. And your name for like Jonathan from Camp Lift was on there. So I know that from speaking with the team that, well, first of all, Camp Lift is an amazing thing for youth that I could get in contact with or to speak to you about, but just for what you do for the community in general, because your name has come up a lot throughout the last, a little over a year that I've been at REISA now.
One thing to highlight is that Camp Lift has been a knowledge sharer in our network, and that's part of the purpose of our network, to share knowledge. You share knowledge about Camp Lift's approach, and the CJE, for example, will share knowledge about their approach than other youth organizations. So I think it's very valid. And it's really unique that as an organization you're servicing specifically English speakers. So I'm sure there's things out there that exist for French speakers that are similar to Camp Lift, correct?
For sure. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Camp Lift grew so much, is that there were huge needs that were unmet in the English community, and that were met at least in funding streams, public funding streams from ministries and government. And so they were going to the French sector. And so there were, I don't know exactly what reason there was behind that, but there was a big gap missing in the English sector. And so since there were unmet needs, well, grassroots organizations sprung up and started answering those needs. And when the funding streams, they cycle every 4 to 6 years, came about, they did a surveying of the English network, and they were seeing Camp Lift was established very well and doing great work with the schools. And so they came knocking at our door and saying, hey guys, like, you guys are doing great work. We're like, who are you? We're the Ministry of Health and Social Services. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. They're like, there's some funding here and you're doing exactly what we want to fund. And so can we talk? And so that was about 5 years ago. But to circle back to the relationship between REISA and Camp Lift, REISA was there on year 0 of Camp Lift, at the beginning stages of Camp Lift, you know, and so it's no surprise that REISA employees are passing along the torch of Camp Lift, because we've been there for almost 10 years now, and it's in great part because of REISA that we had a little bit of we had the kickstart to do all of this work that we were doing, because most of us, the first 4 or 5 years of Camp Lift, were volunteering our time. We all had side jobs as youth workers here, working in different institutions somewhere else. I'm very passionate because I worked in the field and I saw youth that were struggling, and especially I saw youth that were struggling and got out of that struggle and became stronger mentally, physically, more resilient, active participation in the community, inspiring their peers. And so it's like the gift that keeps giving back almost, you know, that passion, if it's there, it's like putting back wood in the fire, and it grows and grows and grows and grows. Yeah.
And I know we've touched a little bit on this with the service gap, but on a more personal note, what drew you to wanting to start Camp Lift? What's your background or history with this?
In many cases, and it is true for mine, it's a personal life experience that brought me towards Camp Lift. I used to be part of the food and beverage industry in Montreal for years, and my trajectory, I thought I would open up a restaurant one day, and you know, all of that stuff that comes with it. And I found myself eventually in a very dark place because of extensive, heavy drug use for years and years, from the age of 12 to 26. And by the grace of I don't know what higher power, I was offered help. I refused it many times, and at one point it became too much, and I accepted the help finally, and I went to treatment for 3 months, and there I met a counselor who inspired me to go back to university and become an addiction counselor myself. And just started working in the field and seeing all these things that I thought would have changed since I was a teenager, and that were still kind of the same, and I saw opportunities to innovate and bring new things to it. I'm a very creative person. I studied in different fields, in visual arts, in fitness, and meditation, and yoga, and all sorts of stuff. That's obviously post food and beverage industry. And so I thought I had like a good toolkit to bring to those types of realms, if I can say. So like the youth sector, the community sector, the institutions and stuff, school boards, schools. Along my path, people trusted me with different things, and because of a lot of that, it inspired me to continue in this direction. And very rapidly I met people that I was inspired by and gathered a team of like-minded people, and it was the beginning of, you know, the organization that is Camp Lift today, which started off probably with like 3 to 4 people, and now it's 12 full-time employees with coordinators, supervisors, co-directors. We're missing HR people. Volunteers are welcome. Yeah, exactly. The network partners have their HR resources. Us, we're still very focused on the operations in the ground, you know, so in the field. Camp Lift is basically what saved my life at one point, and now I feel like it's my duty to give that back.
That's really inspiring.
That's beautiful.
Really touching. Like, I'm really trying not to like be emotional right now because we're being filmed as well.
Be emotional.
But that's where the passion comes from, you know, like that's what separates a lot of different people from the job, because there are people who are made to do jobs like this, to work with the community, to work with youth, to work within addictions or mental health. And it takes someone who's very strong, but also someone who's very passionate, because it's very easy to lose it, and for like to go through moments where it gets really rough, and the things that you end up seeing, you know, it kind of does stay with you. But to continue on with your goal of helping youth, like that's what kind of, you know, is inspiring, like I was saying before, because of the passion, because you can show, you walk into the room and your passion follows behind you, you know, and when we met at the Youth Network Forum, the way that you spoke about Camp Lift and the way that you spoke about the youth that you served at Camp Lift, that's, I think, it radiated throughout the whole auditorium. I think everyone got the same sense of like passion that I had picked up on personally during that moment.
Thank you. That's very kind.
And since you started at Camp Lift, I'm wondering, what are a couple aha moments, or a general theme of an aha moment? Because I know it's really hard after 10 years to choose something.
So one of the aha moments was at the nature camp. The co-director today, whose name is Elvis Kraovic, my partner, he wasn't the co-director yet, and he was just a volunteer at the camp. And he was working in this big law firm in downtown in one of these big office buildings, and he was miserable. He was miserable. He likes this story. And he came to the nature camp, And he was in a moment in his life where he was doing this full 180. He was getting into like a lot of meditation, spiritual practices, studying mindfulness-based stress reduction stuff. And so he was like reorienting himself to get out of that big, glamorous, shiny building and get really into people's lives, right? And so when we met, I convinced him to come on board, came to the nature camp, and I'll always remember during that nature camp, he was like, people's jobs look like this? Like people do this for a living?
Not in an office, 4x4 wall sitting
like,
at a
this
desk.
Could be a real like future for me. That's what he was saying, you know? This like, it was like this aha moment more for him than for us, but it really struck me that he was like, yo, people do this for a living? I was like, yeah, hello, I'm right here. This is what I do. And welcome, come on board. And he quit his job, and we're talking about like big salary, benefits, like career for the rest of his life.
It wasn't rewarding.
It wasn't rewarding. It wasn't rewarding with his value system, you know? I'm not saying it's a bad thing or it's a bad trajectory for people. For 100%. Him, it didn't fit anymore in his life. The Monday he came back into work, he gave us 2 weeks notice.
But you probably saw the aha in his eyes the moment that he actually walked out and actually was questioning you. Is like, is this what you're actually doing every single day?
Yeah.
But I understand that too, because I'm not a person who could, you know, sit behind a desk and 4x4 walls and just kind of spend the rest of my life like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what also got me into working with the community, because I have a deck in psychology and I'm working towards one in social work right now. But the first moment that I actually got out and went and did some outreach, you know, like actually going to different places and hopping around from place to place, meeting different types of youth, meeting even different populations. So not even just youth, but like seniors or early childhood, young families, things like that. It really gives you a perspective that you can't shake. And like that feeling, like the aha moment, you're kind of just like, listen, I prefer this. I prefer this than being, you know, working in the food industry. I prefer this than, you know, sitting at a desk and just working on a screen all day, talking to people and doing my best to serve like youth or people in general. Like it is rewarding, and it's not rewarding for myself. It's rewarding to see what kind of impact you can have upon someone's life in a positive way. You know, we all know we can have negative impacts on people, but when you kind of shift the narrative and you look at what you can do to positively change and impact someone's life and change the like trajectory of where they're going.
And I think what's really important that you mentioned was value system.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you also have an opportunity to teach the kids. When I was reading up on your programming, you talk about values and what drives people, and that's such a foundational approach, I guess, for teens, because so often in school, at least when I was in school, you didn't really have the opportunity to explore these topics, and it's so different from the regular curriculum. It must be very enlightening for the kids, and for both, question for both of you. What are some of the misconceptions people have about youth in general, especially in the health sphere?
You want to start?
Sure. Put on the spot. Okay. Well, there's been a lot. Okay, so I've done a stage at Batshaw. I worked with REISA as an internship for about a year too. So I got a taste of like a lot of different types of youth. And I'm gonna go mentally, because I haven't really focused too much on the physical health aspects, like you were talking about before. But mentally, whether it's in regards to society, drugs, or any type of negative kind of thing that we label, exactly, any type of consumption, any type of mental health issue, I feel like there's a big stigma when it comes surrounding anything negative that's labeling. So what I mean by that, if someone is doing drugs, or if someone is, let's say, suffering from depression or anxiety, or who is actively suicidal, or things like that. Labeling is a huge thing that I've seen throughout the past 7 years working with youth, essentially. And that destroys their ego, their self-confidence, their identity, their self-worth. And that's something that we've noticed that we try and really change the narrative on, we can say, when we're working with them, because that kind of, when you're labeled like that, especially when you're susceptible, because if you're doing drugs, if you have depression or anxiety or any type of mental health issue, there's obviously something that is going wrong, whether it's societally, whether it's within the family, whether it's just you don't feel good in yourself, in your own body, in your own mind, whatever the cause. But labeling switches the narrative in the brain to whoever is getting labeled. So once they're labeled, it's as if they kind of like take it in, and then they have to start being the way that people perceive them as. Exactly. So when they get labeled, their identity shifts. They're no longer who they were before, but yet they're trying to become who the people who are labeling them want them to be. And the people who are giving the labels are most likely negative influences. You know, like you don't normally, it's people who aren't happy with you. It could be abusive parents, it could be a really bad friend group, a negative influencing friend group. It could just be other people that don't know you, who just look at you, and if you're full of tattoos, piercings, they ultimately judge you, any type of label. But it really is influencing, and that's something that we saw at Bat Shaw, something I saw when we did the focus groups with REISA. It was a lot about identity that we had talked upon with the youth. And identity shifts so much because when youth are growing up, they don't really have a sense of full identity. They kind of take little things here and there, and they learn to build up their identity based on the things that they like, based on the things they dislike, based on their friend group, based on what's in their environment surrounding them. And then all of a sudden, if someone shifts that narrative, it's as if, well, might as well, I'm already being called that, so it's a lot easier to, you know, kind of encompass it. And you kind of see their happiness kind of slip away because they feel a lot more distanced from who they had initially wanted to be, depending on what kind of path they go down.
I think that's why it's very important to have some type of mentor in your life, whether it's a parent or external, helping you guide that identity and navigate life, because you might be hearing these labels that are being put onto you and you don't have the full ability at the moment or capacity to truly break them down and understand them.
100%. And I was gonna say too, for me, like working with the community, wanting to become a social worker and everything like that, it was really due to a guidance counselor that I had back when I was younger in school, because I grew up with like a parent who was a heavy addict and who also had a lot of mental health issues like schizophrenia and depression. And so that was already labeling as is. Like it wasn't someone labeling me, but it was like, this is who I am and this is who my identity is. You know, I kind of shaped myself around that. And like, you know, you get into some bad stuff later on, you know, when you kind of choose to be around the people that kind of are the same as you. It's kind of like a trauma bond, if you sense. Like if you're going through stuff, then you feel more connected to other people going through stuff. And that's kind of, you know, the tiptoes onto how it starts. And I remember sitting down with my guidance counselor and she was talking to me and trying to shift the narrative of identity, exactly, because I encompassed the identity of who I thought I was going to become, because it's like the steps that I'm following through with my parent. However, like she really took the time to kind of dive in and figure out what my values were and what I wanted and what kind of passion I had and what inspired me, not the things that, you know, I kind of created in my head to encompass and explain my own personal identity, which was as far as can be from the actual person I wanted to become. And that kind of like is what led me into going to psychology at Champlain, because I was very interested in that kind of aspect of the brain and learning how to shift back and forth and kind of what things like labels can do to someone just like that. And you know, that kind of led me to social work, because psychology, obviously after a deck, listen, like you ain't going nowhere with that. So that kind of shifted, but I always knew like surrounding mental health, helping people, that's kind of where it all derives from. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Very inspiring as well.
Thank you.
One of the first questions we have, well, not the first, but one of them that we have for our potential new employees. So when people apply and we pass them an interview, we're like, talk about your teenagehood. We want to hear like what the challenges you've been through and what you overcame. And there's no small or big challenge. We just want to see the level of comfort with the person embracing their story, embracing where they're coming from, and if they have a capacity to vocalize that and to use it to connect with the people they talk to, because it's very important when we work with youth to be very authentic, to be real with them, because they'll smell phony a mile away. So if you're not being real with them, forget about that collaboration
or the connection too.
Yeah,
they won't trust you
for sure. And so a common misconception about youth that comes up for me is I was thinking through the lens of what we do at Camp Lift, and I'm like, teenagers need to play. They're still kids. And I also want to say, like, adults too still need to play And I think sometimes, at least when we start high school, and this is what we see, is like everything gets more and more serious, right? The schooling becomes more intense, the academic performance becomes more intense, and I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm just saying the seriousness of this life, it starts becoming, it becomes a little bit more intense, and we forget the importance of just being a human connected to other humans and having fun in life. Like, what is life if we're not having fun?
We only have one of them.
And if you go survey youth in high school and you ask them, are you having fun in school? The vast majority would say no. They're bored, they're overstressed because they have like all this performance that they need for the academic side of things. They have 2 phys ed classes, depends on the school, but 2 periods of an hour to an hour 15 in 9 days.
It's not enough.
And then there's lunchtime and recess, okay, but most of them will not go and play any sport or
The lunchtime's meant to eat.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, right, exactly. And recess, you have like 15 minutes, so you're going in the hallways and trying to find your friends and get updated on, hey, what'd you do last weekend? You know,
the
what
bell
are you doing
rings
this?
and you're going back to class.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So teenagers are still kids, and we need to play with kids. And as adults, I think we need to remind ourselves that we still have that part inside of us. We're still kids inside, and we need to take care of that part of ourselves too. That's where we're all going to connect together. That's sort of a safe playing area where everybody can connect together. And that's why we do a lot of physical activity with youth. And again, we're very flexible in what physical activity actually is. We're not necessarily going to the gym and lifting weight. If some kids like that, we can do that, but we can also go for a walk in a park, you know what I mean? Go swimming on the lake at our nature camp that's happening right now. So a lot of physical activity, a lot of play, and one of the main reasons is because adolescents get into risky behaviors because they're bored and they lack interesting experiences for themselves. They want to try new things. They want to get involved in new experiences. They want to meet new people. They want to have fun. They're not running away from these life problems. They just want to experience life. And so let's give them life. Let's give them fun. Let's give them new experiences.
So I just wanted to speak because you had said something earlier that just clicked into my head about individuality when you target these youth that you're working with, and that's also a misconception that I feel like is very prevalent in our society. Youth get grouped together, especially in schools. You know, they expect everyone to learn the same way. They expect everyone to behave the same way. They expect everyone to have the same background, and as soon as someone deviates from those expectations, like what I was saying before with labels, that's kind of where it comes in, you know, the troubled kid, or like, for example, like he's not paying attention, he's not interested, but you don't know if it's because of the fact that maybe he just can't focus, or maybe there's something going on at home that's in his head. Maybe he's tired because he hasn't been getting much sleep. And that's where we kind of shift away as a society, especially in regards to high schools and stuff like that. I saw that all throughout the high school that I was in, and it's really, it's separating from like identity-wise, you know, because you're being labeled with something, and then you just feel like no matter how hard you try afterwards, you're never going to get back to the same person that you were before that label was placed onto you. And I feel like that's a huge misconception, like the separation of how we kind of just lump everyone into one singular group, and we expect to treat them the same way and for them to react in the same way to a bunch of different things as well.
I would say schools are aware of that problem. However, it's like very systemic, deep-rooted challenges that are perpetuating this. But in the work that we do in high schools, it's pretty often that youth that are getting into trouble, like for example, are coming into school intoxicated or are participating in some type of bullying. Oftentimes we'll get grouped together in the work that we do in their schools. However, I have to say the schools trust us to come in with an approach that's non-stigmatizing, which is we really approach it in the healthy lifestyle habit realm, right? We're not like, this is the drug user group, right? You're going to this rehabilitation group at lunchtime, right? It's like, no, we're going to work on health because evidently there's some challenges here, you know. There's a system in place and you're having a hard time to abide by the different codes and regulations. And so let's try this approach and see if you can can upgrade the way that you function inside this system by enhancing your healthy lifestyle habits. Let's look at your sleeping, let's look at your eating, let's do some physical activity, let's pair you up with these mentors that can just listen and motivate you and inspire you, etc., etc. So as I think both work together, like there's the group work that we do a lot in high schools, and then there's also the individual work that works hand in hand, because it's impossible to really, at the size of high schools and school boards, it would be impossible to have like a school for one person, right? So we have to find a way to coexist, like the group work with the individualized approach. And it's not true everybody needs an individualized approach. Exactly. Some youth are super autonomous, independent, are performing at high levels in many areas of their life, and that's great.
What can we look forward to next year?
Next year at Camp Lift. So next year is year 10, believe it or not. So it's a big year for us. What are we looking at? We have, last year we started our first ever youth committee. So 18 to 24 year olds are invited to participate. Every 2 weeks we have a peer-to-peer support group, which is awesome. It happened yesterday in this beautiful space. And so youth are invited to come, we cook, we have a discussion circle on mental health topics every 2 weeks. They also have volunteering opportunities to get involved in different activities that we do. And then they also have free training, like professional, high-level training, like motivational interviewing, nonviolent communication, addiction intervention type stuff. Because eventually we also want to offer them potential employment for our camps. Beautiful. And so these are youth that graduated from our services in the EMSB network that are now going to college or in other routes, and we're making ourselves still available to the youth to support them, but get them involved in more mature type actions. Like, for example, everything that I just named is more around like wellness, but there's also some personal development. But there's also, for example, one of those youth is part of our board of administrators now. So he's learning governance, leadership, representation.
There's retention. Like you're trying to keep who you serve.
Well, make ourselves available. I don't want to keep them because it's always voluntarily, right? If they want to participate or not. So our job is to make ourselves available. If they want to participate, we're there.
They seem like they want to keep you though, if they're still in the loop, and they seem to have taken something really important from what you've taught them for the last 10 years, because they want to do the same thing as you and work with you to help influence other youth as well.
And one of those youth that I worked with personally in the first few years is an employee for the past 2 years at Camp Live.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there's a lot of those full circles. We talked about aha moments. There's a lot of them. I can go on a full list of them, but we don't have time. So what's happening in the next year? So the Uplift crew is our youth committee, and that's going to grow significantly. We're planning our first wellness retreat with them also. Right now we have 24 members in that committee. We're going to be aiming like for 50 plus members in the next year. We're going to be developing a lot of our philanthropy, so fundraising activities. At this point, our main operations, everything is at a very high level of maturity in our mind. It's pretty mature now, but there's a lot of it relies on public funds, and that's a lot of insecurity. So we have to become more creative in finding sources of funding, creating partnerships, and that's it. So the 18 plus is going to develop at Camp Live, and then the philanthropy. Who knows?
I'm glad to hear that.
We're excited to see. We're excited to see how it evolves.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're stretching every hour of our human resources. For last night, I was hosting the committee, so it's like 3 hours from 6 to 9 p.m. We're stretching a lot of our resources, so now we need to get funding and get some employees to take care of that in itself. We're working towards that, and we're pretty confident we're going to get there this year. Yeah.
And where can the people stay in touch about the new things happening at Camp Lift?
Our social media, make sure you like, you follow, you go on our website, you see our annual report, you go join our newsletter, you, what else?
You show up to camp.
Well, actually, you have to be I mean, you can knock at our door for if anything inspired you during this talk and you feel like you need to reach out to us to discuss this idea that you have or you want to get involved somehow, our door is always open. You don't even have to knock, just actually send an email. and that's pretty much it. Keep following us. Supporting community is a beautiful thing. And what else can I say? We are a community organization, so we do have membership. People can join us as members. They get all the updates on what's going on. They can see opportunities to get involved in different things, and yeah, I guess that's a lot. Yeah,
it is a lot.
Yeah,
but I want to thank you so much for your time. It was really interesting
to
talk to you.
Thank you.
And I learned so much about Camp Lift too. So.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here with you, getting to speak about youth and getting to know more information about Camp Lift in general.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting Camp Lift to participate in this.
Of course.
All right. It's a wrap.